Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be sharing again with you this evening. And tonight we're going to be talking about practical mobile safety for your children. And I'm speaking to Gareth and Danielle from MintKids. We're going to be talking about internet safety, the dangers of mobile usage for children across the age groups. We're also going to be looking at practical strategies that we can combine into combat in terms of these dangerous risks. And also we're going to demo MintKids and show you how you can really create safer digital experiences for your children, both at school and at home. So I'm really excited to be sharing with you. I just wanted to give you some stats. So there are about 5.3 billion internet users globally. So approximately 60% of the world's population are online. And more than 175,000 children go online every single day for the first time in their lives. That's about a child every half second of a day. This was a study run by UNICEF. That's a huge number of children. And so we really need to think about how are we educating our children to use the internet safely and to be safe on their devices. Another UNICEF study spoke about the internet helping children both for education and for skill building. So about 40% of the children interviewed spoke about how they use it for school and for information about health. And about 24% spoke about learning new skills. But in the same instance, digital technology can be very, very dangerous or can really harm children, both online and off. And within the study, it spoke about 47% of children between 8 and 12 spoke about being victims of cyberbullying. And 56% of them spoke about an exposure to cyber risks, and that they found as daily. And 10% have actually met online strangers in real life. And so we really need to think about this. But on the other side of it, the study also showed that parents and teachers really felt inadequately prepared. This was a study that Google conducted. It was already in 2019. But in the discussions I've had around with teachers and parents, I don't think the stats have changed much. So 84% of the people who were interviewed, who were teachers, said that there should be more online safety, that 93% of the teachers said it would be helpful to attend online safety training, and 66% of parents were concerned about safety risk. And so if we now take it back to South Africa, the stats in South Africa said that if we've got 60 million people as of in January 2023, 43.5 million internet users were already there. That's 72% of our population. And nearly 26 million were on social media. That's nearly 43% of the total population. And 113 million cell phone connections were there. That's nearly double or more than double the percentage of total population. So my question tonight is, how are we helping to protect our children online? What are the kinds of things that we are doing to really engage with our children and really teach them to be safe online? So I'd like to welcome Danielle and say thank you for being here. I'm really excited to be sharing the solution and the discussion with you. So tell me a bit about why you think we should even be discussing this topic of safety for children with their mobile devices.
Well, look, I think anybody that's just read through half of the stats that you've presented will realize that technology is part of childhood now. We're not going to get away from it. And instead of being scared of it, and instead of worrying about it, I think there's a lot of benefits to tech, as you rightfully said. There's the ability to teach kids in an interactive way. There's the ability for kids to explore a whole different world of learning. They say just through reading apps, the literacy rate has improved significantly. So I think when we have our discussion tonight, technology is not all bad. And I think that's really important to state. I think what we need to do is embrace it, but create the boundaries and the perimeters that allow kids to explore safely. Just like in a motor car, motor cars aren't bad, but you put a seatbelt on your child. You make sure they're in a car seat. You make sure that your kid that's riding a bike for the first time has training wheels. And as they get obviously more proficient at riding a bike, so those rails come off, for example, and they learn better habits. And I think it's the same with technology. Technology starts at a young age now, and there's various ages and stages in which we need to be keeping our children safe and be aware of the dangers that occur at those different stages. But really, taking something away from a child only feeds addiction or the desire for addiction even more. So from our perspective, I think when we created MintKids, it was really to say, how do we get the benefits out of technology and help parents safeguard the risks?
So what are the kinds of dangers that we should be aware of? What are the kinds of things we should say to parents? Hey, think about this. What are the kinds of tips you would give?
So again, I think it starts at very different ages. I would start off by saying I think parents need to be aware of their own technology usage, because we're a generation of parents that are really first-time mobile users, or the first mobile generation, and our parents never taught us how to utilize technology wisely, or even how to create boundaries around it. So I think we've got a generation of addicted parents who are not necessarily present, and who they themselves need some boundaries, then trying to sort of worry about and protect the next generation. So the good news is there's awareness, and parents can model good behavior, which is, I think, where it starts. But I think for me, it's around families first just setting the perimeters around their values at home and what they're comfortable and not comfortable with. What kind of content they want to expose their children to, and what kind of content they want to prevent their children from being exposed to. So we all have the problem when kids are very young. Technology is the best babysitter. So it starts as early as 3, 4, 5, where little kids are getting tablets while mom and dad are cooking supper or are busy doing homework with the older kids. And there really, it's just around at that age, I would say exposing your kid to, as best as you can, a world of education and as opposed to just pure entertainment. And also just being aware of the amount of hours that those children are spending on their screen time, because a lot of the program and the content that's created today is addictive. It's very short. It skips to the next video and the next video and the next video. It's not always a hour and a half movie that a child's going to get bored halfway through and start wandering around or playing. Content is created to be addictive.
Yeah, so I mean, I was. Yes, and I agree with you completely. I was told a story the other day by a teacher who teaches grade R's, and she was saying that there were children in her class who played on tablets so much that their fingers were actually bent backwards, and that they couldn't actually hold a pencil. And I'm thinking, there we need to say to parents, hey, really think about this. Should your child be on this device all the time? What about playing and riding a bike and climbing a tree and just sitting chatting with you as the parents? So don't use it as a total babysitter.
A lot of parents are also too busy to get down and play with a toy car at that age. They're exhausted. They're coming home from work. It's easier to connect around technology because it's kind of something stimulating for everyone. I think that the next stage that we usually cater for is almost like the young, really young kids, sort of 2 to 5 or 6. Then you start getting kids from about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, who are starting to want to feel like consumers, or starting to want to feel like they can download their own games and they can have choice. And they can navigate their own experience. And those are the kids that don't have phones of their own, that are taking their parents' phones or trying to borrow their parents' phones. So I often have that experience where I turn around and I look and I think I've left my phone at the office or it's gone, and I kind of look around and I see my son snuck around the corner and he's on my phone, So I think we all have those kind of things. So at that age, you really just want to be aware of the type, again, screen time, but again, the type of content that you're exposing them to, because at that age, they don't necessarily even need to read. They can literally just click on Google Voice and ask for whatever type of content they want. So they don't even need to know how to be proficient in reading and writing, and they can very easily navigate through any content that they want. So typically, the sort of challenges we find in that age group is mainly sort of your YouTube Reels, access to TikTok, where the algorithms aren't always programmed to be age appropriate at that level, and they're often being exposed to content that's much sophisticated.
Or I want to say to you, well, the parents haven't gone into the settings. So, for example, in YouTube Kids, there are settings for younger children and middle group children. And if the parent has just taken a couple of minutes and gone and actually set up the account so that it's appropriate for your child, that also helps.
Absolutely. But then there's gaming, and there's, exposing your kids to the worlds of a Play Store, where so often we take for granted that they're playing an innocent game, not realizing it's a free game, and pop-ups are coming up for games that break out, into other things, etc. So in that instance, it becomes really important to be vigilant and to be able to control what type of content you're exposing your kid to, particularly because at that age, they don't cognitively understand necessarily what they're processing. They don't really have a construct for it. And so they're very affected by it and often very easily influenced by it. And then, so as you go up, teenagers, you start getting, a lot of issues around body awareness, and a lot of dangers around eating disorders. You've got, issues where people are making contact or reaching out to your children at that age because they more wanting to connect to a wider world. And so content, I think, in today's society is always going to be something that you have to be aware of, because there's so much fake news. The AI has brought a whole nother layer of complexity around, is an image real? Isn't it real? Is this really President Trump standing next to so-and-so? Is it just, his face that's been superimposed? So we live in a world where it's very hard for kids to differentiate between what's truthful and what isn't. And I think as parents, keeping your value system at home becomes really difficult when there's just this open, vast world of anything and everything that kids can find and be exposed to. So there you've got kind of more of the issues around bullying, around exclusion, typical school experience bullying that we all went through, except when we left school, it ended there and we would wait till after the weekend or the next morning. And unfortunately for this generation of kids, it just carries on throughout the night and it never stops. So there's a lot of chat groups to be aware of at that age group, a lot of content sharing, for example, through WhatsApp, that kids are exposed to, where even if you block them or ban them from certain games or applications or movies, kids can literally WhatsApp and stream something to their friends that their parents may or may not be happy with. So I think the dangers are probably more severe than they've ever been. And there's definitely more of a need for active parenting, for parents not just to kind of think that, yes, I've taught my kids, I've explained, stranger danger, don't just accept chats from anybody. It could be catfishing. Like there's that type of education. And then there's like the real vigilance around practical conversations. Like what is my kid thinking? How are they feeling about the world? How are they engaging with others? How are they able to make connections? Are they very disconnected because all they want to do is be on their technology and we can barely get them to a dinner table? So I think, there's no shortage of risks, from deep fakes to, potential people you wouldn't want your kids engaging with that are reaching out, pretending to be ages that they aren't. There's no shortage of risks out there. I think it's really just a question of setting some boundaries for your household, being able to for parents to be able to empower themselves and know that there's nothing that can be done. Because I think really we created MintKids because there was so much content out there from so many people, and so many books being written, Anxious Generation, or so many books being written about the dangers. And then parents going, oh my gosh, I'm aware now. I know their dangers. I totally get it. It makes sense. But what am I supposed to do about it? I'm not technical. I don't know. Like, I can read a little bit of a blog and I can try and set a setting within an app, but it's not enough for me to navigate like a very unknown world because I'm not tech savvy. And so, that was really sort of precipitated us wanting to close that gap.
So if I see Jason's comment where I see a lot of parents who are not tech savvy, what would you advise? I like someone else who is better with tech to help them set up accounts with for their kids. Do you want to explain a bit more about MintKids and show how it can be beneficial to the audience?
Sure, absolutely.
Do you want me to share your slides, or what would you like me to do?
Yeah, great. So if you'd like to pull up the slides, you're welcome to. So Jason, I think you're absolutely correct. My husband, unfortunately, is very good at a lot of things, but he can't change a light bulb or tune a TV. So I don't expect him to do that. We get a handyman that comes and hangs up pictures or hangs curtains or does that for us, because we know that's just an area that we're not proficient in. And you always want, you've got, when you're installing solar, you get a solar expert. You don't try and do it yourself if you know that you're going to struggle. And I think that's been the challenge in the space of mobile device management, where a lot of parents have tried to subscribe to different technologies and they've tried to administer it themselves. And then they realize they're just paying for a subscription that they're not necessarily utilizing. So if I just sort of talk a little bit about MintKids. So MintKids was founded out of 7 or 8 years of us doing this kind of work, particularly within the enterprise space. So for companies that were wanting to restrict and lock down devices, particularly for their employees, and also sort of struggled, even with very advanced IT teams, struggled to do a good job of that, because it is such a niche, and because the world of mobile technology is changing at such a rapid rate. So we've got thousands of devices under management. We manage devices globally, and we realized that there was a real need, because devices are part of childhood now, and kids are often a lot more advanced technically than their parents are. So you think you're more advanced than your kids, but before you know it, they've already broken through your parental controls, etc. So from a MintKids perspective, we've partnered with a lot of the device manufacturers to make sure that we can create sort of very fail-proof solutions. So we specifically, Gareth will show a little bit of a demo in a moment for those parents that would practically like to see how it works. But it gives you total flexibility and control over what your kids are able to do and see on their devices, and it's totally customizable. So our approach is to say we're not there to be judgmental of parents. We're not there to set the rules or to take over the role as a parent. Parents have to be parents. They have to know what they want for their kids or don't want. We see ourselves, or we see the MintKids product almost as an enforcer of your boundaries, because I think, myself included, it's a generation where saying no to our kids is extremely hard. As a tongue-in-cheek, we've got an advert that says MintKids, the phone that says no, so you don't have to. But bargaining with kids is really hard as a parent, whereas having something in place that you can say, oh, it's MintKids, it's the software, it's them that's locked down the phone. For younger kids, certainly not. Older kids don't buy that so easily, but certainly on the littlies, it's working for now.
So Danielle, before you move on, I just want to also talk about the flexibility. So for me, the flexibility you spoke about is so brilliant. So it's not like it's set up just at the beginning and then it's forgotten. So if you as a parent set up certain apps for your children, and then 6 months later, there's a new app that you want to replace, you contact MintKids and they'll put those on for you. So for me, that's really exciting.
It's completely dynamic. So you can set an initial profile when you go onto our website and you subscribe for the software. We've got a tech team that help you do the enrollment. And then from a flexibility and control perspective, we've got a live WhatsApp channel, and you can literally, if you're sitting in a restaurant at 4:00 in the afternoon and your child says, "Mom or Dad, can I have this?" You can simply WhatsApp your request to our live channel with your parent PIN, and within a couple of seconds, that application is pushed to the device. So you literally don't need to know anything about technology to get the full benefit of a restricted lockdown solution for your child, and literally what we call a tech on tap, to where we do the worrying that your security patches are up to date, that the technical aspects of securing the device is in place, and that you know that your kid can literally only do on their tablet or on their mobile device what you've approved and what you're comfortable with. They cannot access anything other than that, down to the Play Store. So we can customize your Play Store that lets them feel like they've got access to a variety of options, but it's pre-screened so that, you know, they can only select through a certain number of games or applications that are checked, sanity checked, and are safe. It's completely hack and tamper proof. So we know that we always keep a step ahead of any kid who's trying to see how they can extend the boundaries of what's possible on devices. And we also just have a device that grows with your kids. So as you become more comfortable that they're aware of their surroundings, or they know what they're able to do or not do, we start to add more and more things as they grow up. So typically speaking, we start with a very restricted device when they're younger, condition them to restrictions, and then as they grow older, sort of take those guardrails away. If that makes sense.
I think it's also really cool. So you're talking about the devices, but for me, the cool thing is that people can use their existing devices or get a device from you. And I think that's also really useful for parents. So they might already have bought a tablet and they can get the software, or if they need something from scratch, you can actually assist with that. And I think that's really meaningful in terms of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say the Resolute question about school, we'll come to it in the next few minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I don't know if you think it would be a nice experience for the audience to be able to actually physically see how it works live. I always say the proof of the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So if you'd like Gareth to sort of show how simple, easy, and what parents could expect from a solution like this.
Yes. I see there's an interesting comment, Gareth, before we bring you in, but this is from Lerato, who says, as a YouTuber who creates kids content, I feel I need also to educate parents on these types of platforms like MintKids. Thanks for creating such a platform. So I thought that's quite a cool comment as well. So Gareth, if you want to pull up your screen, and then we'll share with them and get everybody to be showing how MintKid works. And then just while Gareth's getting ready, perhaps you want to just talk to that it's a home or a school kind of use, and how you can even have it flipping between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in general, Gareth will show you typically the kind of things that you can control and do. But I think when we designed the solution, we're trying to solve a dual problem. So we're trying to solve a problem where kids are being influenced by other kids at school. Those devices are coming to school, and kids are exposing each other to things that the school or parents may or may not be happy with. So the schools at this point in time are dealing with are dealing with a lot of issues, around stuff that's going on at home, and then also stuff that's going on in their environments. And they trying to start looking at a no phone policy, but it's very difficult to enforce at the moment, because unless you're physically taking stock and forcing a kid to put something in a locker or checking them, body checking them before they come in, invariably devices are coming to school. So we sort of thought that if this device could be signed up by the parents, but when it comes to school at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and it hits the school's geolocation, it can automatically switch into a school mode where either it can go off for the day from 7:30 in the morning or 8 until 2:30 or whatever time the school closes, or we could strategically work with the schools to say, how do you start to introduce edutech into the classrooms, and simply a profile switches for that grade's purpose. So whatever applications that teacher requires for her classroom, it almost switches modes. And that way we're almost covering two bases and starting to solve or get both schools and parents to collaborate to actually address the issue head on, rather than just ignoring it and hoping it's going to go away.
So,
but
Danielle, I'm
going
to bring Gareth in. So just to say, Gareth is very camera shy. So Gareth doesn't even have a camera on his computer, but he's going to share and take us through this demo. So welcome, Gareth. I'm excited to be sharing, or for you to be sharing.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate the intro. So what we've got here is a phone that's in a particular profile that is appropriate for age or for the household, where the parents are comfortable with the apps on the device. We've got the ability for kids to have a device that looks and feels unique to them. So each kid or child within the family at different age groups can have phones that have their specific apps that are appropriate for them, their look and feel on the device, and they can have control over that to a certain extent. We have the ability to take the device, as Danielle said, from this mode, which includes both games, it includes educational tools, and we've got the ability to move the device and change it, as Danny said, as soon as the device gets within a specific geofence or a specific time of the day, the device can become a school-specific device, which takes the device and removes the apps off it that kids shouldn't be using during the day at school. So games shouldn't be available, for example, during the day at school. And the device now will go into a mode at a set time or a set geofence that only has the apps on it that's appropriate for that school. So games have been removed.
You also spoke about how for the school, how the parents, the teachers can WhatsApp the same as the way that parents
the same
could.
As the parents.
Teachers, do you want to just explain that bit?
Sure. So in this example, every child in the class would have a device that is exactly the same as every other child. So the teacher doesn't need to worry about, is Google Classroom on the device? The teacher knows that Google Classroom is the top left-hand icon on every single child's device in the class. And the child can't move that icon. They can't delete it. There's no Play Store. They can't mess around with the device. It's set almost like a textbook would be in our day, a stock standard item on every desk in the classroom. We're making this device the same, and it doesn't matter whether the device is a Samsung or a Nokia device. It doesn't matter whether it's a tablet or a phone. Every device looks and feels the same in the classroom, and that class is age appropriate as well. So you can have grade 7s with their own suite of apps, and grade 5 classes can have a completely different set of apps, all within the same school.
So there's a question around, does it work for all devices, Windows, Apple, Androids, or what type of devices
so
can you accommodate?
So Apple and Android devices, absolutely no problem. Windows is not supported at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And then another question that they're asking is it managed by the parents or the school administrators?
So the most fantastic part about this is that it's not managed by either of those. The parents and the schools have the ability to request changes to the devices, but the parents and the schools don't ever have to manage the actual devices. So the devices are managed by the Mint team in its entirety, and fully support the teacher, so that if the teacher's got a problem in the school or the parents have got a problem with the device at home, our support team is literally a WhatsApp away from being able to support the device, and we can fix whatever is wrong on the device in real time. So it's not left up to the parents to have to become the tech expert. The parents and the schools just need to say, we want this change, we want this app deployed, and we make it happen in real time over the air.
Oh, thank you. So if you want to carry on with your demo, sorry.
Sure. So this device now can go from school back to its home mode, and then after, bedtime, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on what time the child is going to sleep at night, the device can actually go into a sleep mode, which allows parents to, as Danny said, allows the device to say it's enough and the parents don't have to. So in this case, the device would go into sleep mode. All the apps are removed off the device. The child can't do anything else with the device, and it's now time for bed. Obviously,
and this is the same kind. This is the same kind of mode that a school would use if they don't. If the children are not allowed to use devices at school, is that?
Yes. So the look and feel would be different. It can be customized to the school with the school logo, to say that this is an approved device that's allowed to be brought into the school. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, this device goes into school mode, and all the apps are removed off the device. That way, the devices don't need to be sort of confiscated from the kids or put in a locker somewhere, and the teachers again don't have to manage that process. It's automatic. We're using tech to enable the functions that the schools need and the parents need, versus trying to do it via physical lockup methods.
So if I could also just interject here, we can create any bedtime experience that a parent's comfortable with. So for example, the device could almost switch into sleep mode, but you might want your kid to have, for example, a sleep meditation app, or a sleep monitoring app, or the ability to have an SOS panic button in their room, or whatever it might be. That we can block any of the apps that parents aren't comfortable with, and just have the applications that they feel would be beneficial around bedtime. But what this enables is parents to go to bed knowing that their kids aren't on their phones, in their bedrooms, underneath a blanket till 2-3 in the morning, that they can actually control what happens in their kids' bedrooms at night when they're not around. And the same sort of settings you can set throughout the day. So for example, if you really do want to curb your child's device usage when they come home from school, you can say, well, it switches back into home mode, but actually you only allowed your homework applications up until 4 o'clock. Then you can have from 4 to 6 a little bit of screen time before we have dinner, and then after dinner it switches off again. So parents collectively with their children can decide what their device usage experience needs to look like throughout the day, and we can just automate that experience to ensure that those boundaries are enforced.
I mean, and the other thing, Daniela, that we spoke about the other day was schools who are locking up phones at break because kids aren't socializing and things. You could do the same. So it doesn't have to be a long period of time. It can be as short as people want that it goes to sleep or it's not usable, and then switch on and off. So in a school day, you could have different modes depending on the timetable and how you want the children to use it as well.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of the schools that are keen to adopt this approach are also saying that one of the challenges that they've got at school is a kid will just use their cell phone and say, Mom, I've got a headache, I'm feeling sick, come and fetch me. They no longer have to go past, the school secretary to tell the school secretary that they're not feeling well, to get a tablet, to go back to class, to kind of wait out the day. Like kids are just, I think kids today are just calling their parents for every little thing in sort of a school day. Whereas I think with a solution like MintKids, schools are being able to say, well, actually, we want to control the boundaries when those kids are at school. And if there's an issue, they should be coming to the school secretary and engaging with the school secretary, not making their own arrangements and leaving the school campus.
Yes. Sorry, Gareth, do you want to carry on? You are muted.
Sorry, there we go. The very last point, which I'll just make, is that the ability to restrict what the kids can do on the phone goes beyond just the apps to being able to make sure that the kids can't change privacy settings on the device. The kids can't turn off GPS locations. The device can't be factory reset. So all of those types of settings, again, are controllable without the parents having to know. Good question. Is it effective for allowing VPNs? We can, if the parents require it, we can ban VPNs from being launched onto the device. Remember, the child would have to be able to load a VPN app or set up a VPN connection, and we can block both of those. So there's no way for the child to bypass the system.
And then another question was also, what about Chromebooks or Linux devices? And I'm not sure what you mean by in terms of support, but could you answer this?
Chromebooks, yes. Linux devices, no, simply because there's too many variants of Linux devices. And in terms of support, yes, Android, Apple, Chromebooks, all supported.
Great, thank you. So Gareth, thank you for that. I think it's really important. If any other questions come in, we can pull you back in. Daniela, is there anything else you want to add as we begin to finish off?
So I think maybe one of our experiences have been, what prevents it. It seems so obvious. This is such a great idea. It seems so obvious that parents would be sort of signing up en masse. And I think what is important to acknowledge is that, this can be quite a daunting experience for parents, because this world of technology is sort of quite scary, and it seems much bigger than it is. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have this discussion with my child. How are they going to feel about doing this? Is it complicated? What does setup look like? Am I going to have to go through a battery of 400 questions? What if I don't know what I want? So I think the way that we've designed the experience is to take as much intimidation and fear out of the process as possible. So from a user experience perspective, you can literally go to the website. You can either, sign up for a device and a subscription, or a subscription only if you've got a device at home. And really our job is to guide you through the process. So as soon as you subscribe, you'll get your order confirmation. And then you'll have a technical person, a human being, not a bot, sort of phone you to say, hi, tell me a little bit about your family. What are you comfortable with? What aren't you? Do you have any preferences? But it's nothing set in stone. It's not like you stuck with what you've got, and if you haven't figured it out properly, you're done for. We can enroll devices pretty much over the air without physically having to touch your kid's device or take it away from them for a day, depending on the make and model, obviously. So it's completely over the air. We design an experience to the best of our ability, and we push it. And for a couple of days, there's some tweaks and changes and probably a little bit of internal conflict in the household. But then things sort of settle and kids get conditioned, and parents become a little bit more dependent on pushing us, pushing things to us. And then sort of it's normalized and things sort of settle. So I think there's a lot of barrier to entry in just taking that first step and saying, okay, so I can just sign up and see how it goes, and I'll crawl, walk, run. I think we've designed an experience to sort of crawl, walk, run, which we hope is quite user-friendly. And then really, as I said again, we're not there to judge any parent for whatever they decide and go, oh my gosh, this parent has allowed roadblocks. Oh, can you believe that? We don't have those kind of conversations at our office at all. Everything's very confidential. Whatever that parent is comfortable with, that's what we push to the device. We're not there to be judge or juror. If there's some guidelines or parents ask us, do you think this is appropriate or not, we'll share whatever knowledge we have. But we also don't profess to be experts in the mobile safety space and what apps kids should or shouldn't touch. I think there's a variety of amazing influencers out there with far more experience than we have. So we just see ourselves as the tech people that know how to alleviate the tech burden away from schools and parents.
So I see Yulin is saying, please tell me where to get the tablets and the subscription details. So I'm assuming people can just go to your website at MintKids and follow the prompts there, or phone you. So Yulin, if you want to take the details or take a photograph of the details here, then you can contact Daniela and the team, and they can help you from that point of view. I'm not sure if that's where it is. Do you perhaps have a slide with details of the subscription?
Yes,
and things
I've,
like that?
I've actually popped it up there if you want to just pop it up.
Cool.
I'm not sure if it's very, very small. So for those of you with excellent eyesight, but just sales at mintkids.co.za. If you are wanting a actual demo or you're wanting to ask more intimate one-on-one questions, if you just would like to go straight to the website and subscribe, it's month to month. So I think it's also important to tell parents that we don't lock you into long annual contracts, etc. It's literally month to month. If you're not happy, you can cancel your subscription. No issues. If we're not delivering value that you're expecting, you haven't signed your life away. So it's month to month. You simply go to the website, you sign up for a subscription only, you go straight to the cart, you go through the checkout process, and then we get in touch with you to make sure that your devices can be enrolled.
So Daniela, this has been really amazing. I think that just by the reactions and the questions, it's been really great and sparked a whole lot of thoughts, and also perhaps given people a solution to something that they weren't sure what to do. So I think what you and Gareth have developed and achieved is really incredible. So I just want to say thank you to you both for coming on this evening and for sharing your wonderful solution that can be both used by a school as a whole and then with their parents, or just with the parents, and the parents could have a school mode or timeout for their kids with the devices, but then we don't have to hide them away, and we can use them for meaningful learning use and engagement with our children. So thank you so much for sharing. As we close off, have you got one tidbit that you think you really want to share that you think everybody should consider?
Sure. I think I've spoken quite a lot, so I'm not sure there is anything. I think that what I generally like to say to people is, sugar's not all bad. Like sugar's not all bad, gluten's not all bad, phones are not all bad, everything in moderation. And, I think everything in moderation. So I think what parents shouldn't do is be so afraid that they, try and restrain their kids from being introduced to technology. Because I think that technology has a lot to offer today, and it really can expedite learning like never before. So I think the message to parents is no extreme is good. Delaying till they're 25 is not realistic and not practical, unfortunately. And at the same time, giving your kids complete unfettered, unmonitored use is not safe either. Somewhere in the middle is healthy, and it's really about that education. It's really about having those important, and I think you're very good at that, and certainly you've provided a lot of insight into that, is, what are the right conversations to be having with your kids, and how do we enable them to navigate a world safely, as opposed to depriving them or taking things away, which just kind of drives underground behavior. So the more that you talk, and the more that you engage, and the more that you have difficult and uncomfortable conversations, and the more you talk about practically what your kids are exposed to, I think the better the relationship will be, and the more open device usage is generally in those households.
So thank you for that. I'm just going to address the question about iPads and teaching and learning. I think there is a place for children to use devices. I do not think they need to be on them 24/7. I do not think they need to be on them all day at school. I think there's skills that they can use to learn it, but they also need to be playing outside. They need to be doing fine motor and gross motor activities. They need to be exploring all sorts of things and not just on the devices. I definitely don't think that we should be having hours and hours of screen time, almost for anybody. And so having the discussion around that, I think, is very important, particularly in the classroom. We should have a mix. The devices are there as a support, just like textbooks, and saying, how do we actually use it to empower our children and get them not to be not knowing about technology at all. So again, I just want to say to both of you, thank you so much for today. Thank you for sharing. I think it's been a fantastic discussion, and I really do love the solution. I'm going to end the session now. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.